Do you experience this common frustration for the modern artist? We put such a lot of time and effort into producing a drawing which we feel proud of, and we want to put it on our social media platform and share our work with our followers, and who knows, maybe even pick up some new followers. And we take a photo and it looks like this. But it doesn't have to look like this. I've used my iPhone photo app on that same photo to change it to this, which is much more how it looks in real life. How do I do it in just a few minutes? Let me show you how. So let's go back to our terrible photo. What do we need to do to get this looking like this? Well, I'll show you. But firstly, the best option is to take the best photo we can, which may actually mean taking it outside. Find a spot in full sun. I find the backboards of my drawing pads incredibly useful things to keep. I mostly use them as surfaces to lean on when I draw. They're also good as cutting boards, but I also use them to keep my drawing straight. I have learned in Australia slight breezes come up an awful lot, so I have some weights to stop my drawing from moving. And then it's just a case of choosing the best angle to get a photo without any shadows. Always go in as close as we can to take our photo. Sometimes the sun can be too bright, so we can always try an area of shade, but we need to make sure that it really is full shade, because the camera is very sensitive to variations of light filtering through trees. Generally, even light shade will cast a noticeably bluish tone over our work. But as long as the tone is even, it's not a problem usually with editing. But the weather's not always like this. Sometimes it's raining or it's at night, and we need to sort out the best artificial light conditions we can produce. Experimenting is important, and the best thing is to get lighting which is even, and of course remembering to move in as close as we can before we take a photo. The first thing to do is to select our rather poor photo. Now I'll select the edit function at the top right corner. The first thing I want to do is to crop my photo to make it as close to the actual size I want it to be at the end. So I hit the cropping function at the bottom on the right there, and I'm only going to adjust the crop top and bottom because I want to keep this as wide as I can for YouTube format. Now I hit the color and brightness option at the top. The first of our adjustment options we have that I'm going to use is brilliance. Brilliance is particularly useful for evening out uneven light, and we can see here that the bottom left side of my drawing is a lot darker than the top right side of my drawing. So we'll slide brilliance up to 100, and we can see that does make a difference, and we have a relatively more even tonal range there. The next thing I want to do is to take all trace of color out of this photo, and you might think there's not much color in it, but if we take the saturation option and I slide it up to full intensity, you can see how bright and yellow parts of this photo become, and that's only going to get in the way when we adjust the light and the tones. So I'm going to take the color to -100 to totally move all trace of color, and we can see already there is a much more even foundation now for our further adjustments. The next option I want to use is highlights. Now I like highlights because it lets me whiten whites while having a minimal impact on tones and shadows compared to some of the other options. Again, I'll adjust the slider, watching all the time to see how it goes, and I feel like the maximum benefit is around 78, so I'll leave it there for now. And of course, all of these adjustments can be readjusted later. I now go to my black point option. Now, black point is a good option for darkening the blacking lines, although it does also darken the darker tones as well. And again, I slide it along and I'll take it to 100 at this point. And if it looks even a bit too dark in parts, I'm yet to apply brightness, which will lighten everything as well as the tones. And so I'm trying to anticipate the impact of using the brightness option further on. But before we get to brightness, I will look at contrast. Now I think of contrast as the heavyweight option. Contrast makes the white whiter, the brights brighter, and the darks darker. I'll just show you the effect. When I slide down, we can see that it is quite remarkable, the effect it has. But it can also affect the line quality somewhat if we go too dark with it. So I'm going to leave it there at 61 for now. And now I'll go to brightness, which is another powerful option. And I will take the slider into the brighter territory. And again, we can see if I take it right up, that it does make a difference. Now, if I take it down the other direction, it makes a big difference too. And it's always good to take these options down the other way. Sometimes making an adjustment by taking an option into, if you like, negative territory is a helpful thing to do. But I've managed to get my drawing looking rather light already. So I'm only going to take brightness to 15 at this point. Another great option with the iPhone is the ability, while editing, to touch our photo and to see how it looked before we made any adjustments. And that gives us a sense of, have we moved in a helpful direction? Have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? Have we lost too much of anything? And what I can see is that we have lost quite a bit of tone on the front of the building. So I'm going to look at one more option we have, which is shadows. Shadows is probably the option which I use in both directions most commonly. But in this case, I want to see whether it can bring back some of the darkness to my shadows. I take it down, and yes, it does do that. So I take it to -100, and it has increased the darkness in some of those tones which I've lost through some of the brighter options I've employed. And again, I touch the screen to get a comparison with how it looked before I started editing, and I'm happy with that. And so I hit done to save those changes. And I can have a closer look by pinching my fingers on the screen just to see how it looks closer up. And I'm happy with that as my edit. Now it's ready to post. Hi, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, in truth, I think I would have liked to have added a little more brightness or lightness somehow to remove the grey smudges that were still on the left-hand side. But in fact, I would have cropped those out if I were posting that to my, say, Instagram account. But I hope you can see some of the possibility of using those features in editing photos for posting on social media. The best thing is, if it's not a good photo, take another one. A good photo is always a better option than trying to edit a bad one. When I first began taking photos and posting on social media, I had a real wrestle with how far can I go in the editing process? Am I allowed to improve on my drawing, improve on the original with the editing? And look, that's up to each artist. I'm not sure that there's really a clear-cut stop to the creative process in all of this. It's not as if our works look the same on a small screen as they do in real life anyway. And so since our drawings already are going to get a negative impact from being on the small screen, I'm not sure there's any great problem with counteracting that a little bit with the way we edit. But of course, whatever decisions we make with editing, it's important that, as in everything, we have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.